All right, so now we got through part one of Aristotle's six parts of the play, which is plot. It's probably the most important one. So you have the story, the actual story, what occurs action to action from beginning to end. And as you'll look at in the reading, there are different types of plots. There's causal plot, which is linear, and then, I mean, there's just different ways that plots occur. But the main thing to understand is just the different parts of it. Exposition, inciting action, rising action, climax, falling action, denouement, right? Um, Then we go to part two, which is character, right? So playwrights just write what? Dialogue. Playwrights just write dialogue. And the dialogue is for the characters to speak. So all the plot comes from what the characters say and do on stage, unlike a novel where the plot occurs, everything occurs via first-person narrative or any kinds of narrative devices. The narrative device in plays are just dialogue from characters. Characters are created to perform certain tasks so the plot can happen, right? So characters perform tasks so the plot can happen. They are functions within a plot. There are different types of characters, as you'll see in the reading. They'll go more into depth into that. But basically, you have the main ones here for Romeo and Juliet again. We have Romeo and Juliet. They're the protagonists. They're what the story is about. And then you have the antagonist. One of those for Romeo certainly would be Tybalt. You have Mercutio, which is a foil. He is an opposite to the protagonist, in this case Romeo and Juliet, but mostly Romeo since it's a friend of Romeo's. The foil gives you just a different side of a coin for the passions and the character of Romeo to go against. And then you have Friar Lawrence, who is a confidant. These are just stereotypical characters that you find in a lot of different stories, but plays, they're incredibly important for the plot to occur. You have to have a complication, right? For the protagonist, they have to have something to fight against. Otherwise, the story is not exciting. There is no story. Go to number three, which is the idea. We talked a little about this earlier, mentioned it rather. So the idea is why the story is being told, right? So the plot is what the story is. The idea, think about it. What's the idea of this play? Why are we telling this story? What is the meaning of it? With the order of events for cause and effect, like let's say for one idea would be, let's say, good versus evil. That's a simple one. We see that all the time on police shows like Crime and Order, or like Law and Order. Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? That's what the plot is about, right? So somebody does something, murders somebody, or something like that at the beginning. Then they try to find who did it, and then they find out this guy did it, and they take him to court. He's good versus evil. That's very simple. Then we go to 4 and 5, which is language and music. They go together in a sense. So the language and music refers to the language that the characters say in the play, right? So the characters are revealed via language, the choice of their words, right? So if they say something like rather or because or fixin', like we do in Texas, right? I'm about to go over here, or I'm fixin' to go over here. Just different words that are being used, and they reveal something about character. Words, 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 as Shakespeare says via Hamlet. Social class, level of education, complexity of thought. Romeo and Mercutio's words are different. Mercutio is mercurial, it's in his name, but he has kind of like dirty things to say, and just tells different stories than Romeo's the lover. He has poetry. They say different things. The way they say things are different. Tybalt and Romeo are different. Tybalt's kind of militant. He wants to fight all the time, so his words always go, his language always goes in that direction, whereas Romeo, again, is a poet. He's trying to make peace. He's trying to make love. And Romeo and the Friar, even the Friar and Romeo, who are confidants, the Friar is a man of God, so he speaks in a very kind of elevated way, in a very peaceful way as well, but not as poetic as Romeo, who's the lover. And then we have finally number 6, spectacle. Spectacle refers to what makes the play theatrical, right? So you could do any medium that you want to, again, television, film, novels, short stories, but theater is different. So you have to think about, when you're reading it, why they did this in a play form, why they chose the medium of theater, and if it's successful. right? Oh, this would be a better movie. Oh, this would be a better television show. Oh, this would be a better short story. Why did they write this in a play form? You must try to visualize the action on the page. Use your imagination as you're reading it. It's the most challenging of the 6 parts to understand from the text. Spectacle can embody idea, clarify characters, and forward plot. So go to the reading, a little about those things, but the idea behind all of these is to be able to understand all these things are at play when you're reading a play, as Aristotle found out hundreds of years ago. And it's just a way of delineating different parts of a play to find out ultimately what the idea is, the why, and if it was successful or not.